I never thought I'd be here, pouring my heart out to strangers on the internet. But I guess life has a way of surprising you. I'm Sarah, 29F, and I've been married to Jake, 32M, for 3 years. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party 5 years ago. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was running late because my car wouldn't start, and I burst into the party flustered and apologetic. Jake was the first person I bumped into, quite literally. He steadied me with his hands and made a joke about my dramatic entrance. We spent the rest of the night talking and laughing. Jake and I came from different worlds. I grew up in a small town, the youngest of 4 kids. My parents owned a local diner, and I spent my childhood helping out there, learning the value of hard work and family. Jake, on the other hand, was a city boy through and through. An only child, he was raised by his mom after his dad left when he was young. He threw himself into computers and coding as a way to cope with the absence of his father. Despite our different backgrounds, we clicked instantly. We started dating a week after we met, and things moved quickly from there. Within 6 months, we were living together in a tiny studio apartment downtown. It was cramped and the neighbors were noisy, but we were happy. We'd stay up late talking about our dreams, my desire to start my own graphic design company, his ambition to create the next big app. A year into our relationship, Jake proposed. It wasn't a grand, elaborate affair, just the two of us on a hike, our favorite activity. We reached the summit of the trail, and as I was catching my breath and admiring the view, I turned around to find Jake on one knee. The ring was simple, a small diamond set in a silver band. He later told me he'd been saving up for months to buy it. Our wedding was beautiful, held in a rustic barn venue near my hometown. All our friends and family were there. I'll never forget the look on Jake's face as I walked down the aisle, or the way my dad teared up as he gave me away. We wrote our own vows, promising to always be honest with each other and to face life's challenges together. The first 2 years of our marriage were great. We both worked from home, me as a freelance graphic designer, Jake as a software engineer for a tech startup. We'd have lunch dates in our backyard, go for evening walks with our rescue dog, Max, and spend weekends exploring new hiking trails or trying out new restaurants. We were saving up for a big Europe trip, planning to visit all the art museums I'd always dreamed of seeing. We had our disagreements, of course. Jake could be a bit of a workaholic, often losing track of time when he was deep into a project. I, on the other hand, was sometimes too focused on the little details, nitpicking things that didn't really matter. But we always managed to work through our issues, usually over a homemade dinner and a bottle of wine. Everything seemed perfect until about 3 months ago. Jake started acting differently. It was subtle at first. He began working longer hours, often staying up late into the night. When I'd ask him about it, he'd say he was working on a big project. I didn't think much of it at first. His job could be demanding sometimes, and I knew he was hoping for a promotion. But then I noticed other changes. He became protective of his phone, always keeping it face down and taking it with him everywhere, even to the bathroom. He started going out more often, claiming he was meeting colleagues for drinks or attending work events. These outings became more frequent, sometimes happening 3 or 4 times a week. I tried to talk to him about it, but he'd brush off my concerns, saying I was being paranoid. But my gut feeling told me something was off. I started to withdraw, throwing myself into my work as a way to distract myself from the growing distance between us. Last week, I decided to do something I never thought I'd do. I checked his phone while he was in the shower. We'd always had an open phone policy, never hiding anything from each other. But lately, Jake had been so secretive that I felt I had no choice. What I found shocked me to my core. There were dozens of messages between Jake and someone saved as A in his contacts. The messages were flirty and intimate, talking about meeting up and how much they missed each other. There were even a few pictures exchanged, though thankfully nothing explicit. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through the messages, each one feeling like a knife to my heart. I heard the shower turn off and quickly put the phone back where I found it, my mind racing. I confronted Jake as soon as he got out of the shower. At first, he tried to deny it, but when I told him I'd seen the messages, he broke down. He admitted that A was Amy, 28F, a new colleague at work. They had been having an emotional affair for the past 2 months. Jake swore nothing physical had happened and that he wanted to work on our marriage. He said he'd cut all contact with Amy and even look for a new job. But I don't know if I can trust him anymore. The Jake I thought I knew would never do this to me. I'm staying with my sister Lily, 31F, right now. I need some space to think. Jake keeps calling and texting, begging for another chance. My friends are split, some say I should give him another chance, while others think I should leave him. I'm torn. On one hand, I love Jake and the life we've built together. We have a house, our dog Max, and we were talking about starting a family soon. On the other hand, how can I ever trust him again? Every time his phone buzzes, will I wonder who he's talking to? I keep thinking back to the early days of our relationship, how happy we were. We'd spend hours talking about our dreams, our fears, our hopes for the future. Jake was always so open and honest with me. Or at least, I thought he was. Now I'm questioning everything. My parents are urging me to try couples counseling. They've been married for 35 years and say every marriage has its rough patches. But is infidelity just a rough patch? I'm not so sure. I'm also angry at Amy. How could she knowingly engage in a relationship with a married man? I found her on social media and was tempted to message her, but my sister talked me out of it. She said it would only complicate things further. I haven't eaten properly in days. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see those messages. I keep wondering if there's more that I don't know about. Did they meet up in person? Did they kiss? Did it go further than that? Jake and I had plans. We were saving up for that Europe trip next year. We talked about having kids in the next couple of years. Now all of those plans feel like they're crumbling around me. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to forgive him and try to move past this. But another part of me feels like this betrayal is too big to overcome. How can I ever look at him the same way again? I could use some advice. Has anyone been through something similar? How did you handle it? Is it possible to rebuild trust after something like this? Or am I better off walking away now, before we have kids or more entangled finances? Thank you for reading this long post. I just needed to get it all out. Update 1, it's been 2 weeks since my last post, and a lot has happened. Thank you all for your advice and support. It really helped me gain some perspective. After spending a week at my sister's place, I decided to move back home and have a serious talk with Jake. I felt I needed answers before I could make any decisions about our future. My sister Lily was worried about me going back, but I assured her I'd call if things got out of hand. When I got home, the house was a mess. There were takeout containers everywhere, and it looked like Jake hadn't done laundry since I left. Jake himself was a sight. He looked like he hadn't slept or shaved in days. As soon as I walked in, he broke down in tears, apologizing over and over. We sat down at our kitchen table, the same one where we'd shared so many meals and conversations, and I told him I needed the whole truth. No more lies or half-truths. Over the next few hours, Jake told me everything. It turns out the emotional affair had been going on for longer than he initially admitted, nearly 4 months. He and Amy had met at a work conference in San Diego. Jake had gone to represent their company, while Amy was there from a partner firm. They were seated next to each other during one of the keynote speeches and hit it off immediately. At first, it was just friendly chats and lunch meetups. They discovered they had a lot in common, both were only children, both loved obscure indie bands, both were into rock climbing. Jake said he enjoyed talking to someone who understood the pressures of his job. But over time, it evolved into something more. They started texting regularly, sharing inside jokes and complaining about their workdays. Jake admitted he started looking forward to her messages, feeling a thrill every time his phone buzzed. Jake swore that nothing physical ever happened beyond a kiss. According to him, they kissed once after a late night at the office. They had been working on a joint project, and after everyone else had left, they ended up alone together. One thing led to another, and they kissed. Jake said that's when he realized how far things had gone. He claimed he tried to end it then, but Amy was persistent, and he was weak. I asked him why risk our marriage for this? He said he felt neglected. Apparently, I had been so focused on my work lately that he felt like we were drifting apart. I had taken on a big project for a new client, and I'd been working long hours to meet the deadlines. Jake said he missed the easy companionship we used to have. Instead of talking to me about it, he sought comfort elsewhere. I was furious. Yes, I had been busy with work, but that's no excuse for infidelity. I told him he should have talked to me if he was feeling neglected. We could have worked on it together, maybe planned a weekend getaway or set aside specific time for just us. Instead, he chose to betray my trust. After our talk, I needed some time to process everything. I went for a long walk in the park where we used to have picnics. As I sat on our favorite bench, watching families play frisbee and couples walking hand in hand, I realized I wasn't ready to give up on our marriage just yet. We built a life together, and I wasn't prepared to throw that away without at least trying to fix things. But I also knew things couldn't go back to how they were before. Trust, once broken, isn't easily repaired. I spent hours thinking about what I needed to feel secure in our relationship again. I went home and told Jake I was willing to try and work things out, but with conditions. He had to find a new job immediately. I couldn't bear the thought of him working with Amy every day. He had to give me full access to his phone and computer. No more secrets. We would start couples counseling. He had to cut all contact with Amy, effective immediately. Jake agreed to all my conditions without hesitation. He even showed me as he blocked Amy's number and deleted her from all his social media accounts. It was a start, but I knew we had a long road ahead of us. The next day, Jake started job hunting. He had an interview lined up by the end of the week. We also booked our first couples counseling session for next Tuesday. It's been a roller coaster of emotions. Some days, I feel hopeful that we can work through this. Other days, the anger and hurt feel overwhelming. I find myself scrutinizing Jake's every move, wondering if he's being truthful. It's exhausting. We've started having dinner together every night, like we used to in the early days of our relationship. We talk about our days, our feelings, our fears. It's not always easy. Sometimes the conversation turns to the affair, and things get tense. But we're trying. I've also started focusing on myself more. I've picked up my old hobby of painting, something I'd let fall by the wayside in recent years. It's therapeutic, allowing me to express my emotions on canvas when I can't find the words. My friends and family have been incredibly supportive. My sister Lily checks in on me every day, and my best friend Emma, 30F, has been a constant source of support. Jake's mom, Linda, 58F, even called me to apologize for her son's behavior and to offer her support, whatever I decide to do. I know the road ahead won't be easy. Rebuilding trust takes time, and there's no guarantee we'll succeed. But for now, I'm willing to try. We've invested 5 years in this relationship, and I want to be able to say I did everything I could before walking away. I'll keep you updated on how things progress. Thank you again for all your support. It means more than you know. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and things have taken an unexpected turn. Jake found a new job within 2 weeks of starting his search. It was a lateral move in terms of position, but he took it without hesitation. He's been transparent with his phone and computer, often leaving them unlocked around me. We've been to 4 couples counseling sessions, which have been challenging but helpful. Our therapist, Dr. Martinez, has been guiding us through some difficult conversations. We've talked about our communication issues, our expectations for the relationship, and how we can rebuild trust. Jake's been actively participating, sharing his feelings and listening to mine. It's been hard, but I felt like we were making progress. Things seemed to be improving slowly. We were communicating better, and I was starting to feel like maybe we could get through this. We even started planning a weekend getaway to the beach house where we spent our honeymoon. I thought it might be a good way to reconnect and make new, positive memories. But then something happened that turned everything upside down. Last week, I received a message request on Facebook from someone named David, 30M. When I opened it, my heart nearly stopped. David introduced himself as Amy's fiancé. He had discovered Amy's affair with Jake and wanted to know if I was aware of the situation. I was shocked. Jake had told me Amy was single. I immediately called Jake at work and told him to come home. When he arrived, I showed him the message. Jake went pale and started stammering, trying to explain. It turns out Jake had lied about several things. Amy wasn't just a colleague, she was his team lead. And she definitely wasn't single. Jake claimed he didn't know she was engaged at first, but admitted he found out about a month into their affair. He said he tried to end it then, but Amy threatened to make trouble for him at work if he did. I was furious. Not only had Jake cheated, but he continued to lie even after promising complete honesty. I felt like a fool for believing him, for thinking we could work things out. All the progress we'd made in therapy felt like it had been wiped away in an instant. I replied to David, confirming that I knew about the affair and apologizing for the pain this must be causing him. We ended up talking on the phone for over an hour, comparing notes and filling in gaps in each other's knowledge. David told me that he and Amy had been together for 5 years. They'd gotten engaged 6 months ago and were in the middle of planning their wedding. He found out about the affair when he overheard Amy on the phone with Jake, talking in a way that was clearly more than friendly. David told me that Amy had confessed to the affair when he confronted her, but she'd minimized her role, claiming Jake had pursued her aggressively and she'd only given in due to a moment of weakness. This was vastly different from the story Jake had told me. After my conversation with David, I confronted Jake again. This time, faced with the fact that I'd spoken to David, Jake finally told me the full truth. The affair had been physical from early on. They had slept together multiple times, both at hotels and at our house when I was visiting my parents. I was devastated. Every new revelation felt like a fresh betrayal. The man I thought I knew, the man I had married and planned a future with, felt like a stranger to me. I thought about all the times he'd lied to my face, all the times he'd been with her while I was blissfully unaware. I packed a bag and went back to my sister's place. I told Jake I needed time and space to think about what I wanted to do next. He begged me to stay, to give him another chance, but I couldn't bear to look at him. I'm staying with my sister indefinitely. Lily has been incredibly supportive, letting me cry on her shoulder and helping me think through my options. I've contacted a lawyer to discuss my options. I don't know if I'll file for divorce immediately, but I want to be prepared. I feel lost and betrayed. The future I thought I had has crumbled around me. But I'm also angry at Jake for his betrayal, angry at Amy for her role in this mess, and angry at myself for being so blind. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I deserve better than this. Thank you all for your continued support. I'll update again when I've figured out my next steps. Update 3. It's been 2 months since my last update, and I've made some big decisions. After careful consideration and many discussions with my lawyer, I've decided to file for divorce. The trust between Jake and me is irreparably broken, and I realized I couldn't spend the rest of my life wondering if he was being truthful. The process has been difficult. Jake initially contested the divorce, begging for another chance. He showed up at my sister's place unannounced one evening, causing quite a scene. Lily's husband, Mark, had to threaten to call the police before Jake would leave. It was painful to see him like that, but it also reinforced my decision. I couldn't be responsible for Jake's emotions anymore. After a stern talk with his own lawyer, Jake finally accepted that our marriage was over. We're now in the process of dividing our assets. It's strange, reducing 5 years of marriage to a list of items and bank accounts. We're selling the house, neither of us wants to live there with all the memories it holds. Deciding what to do with Max, our dog, was the hardest part. In the end, we agreed on joint custody. It's not ideal, but I couldn't bear the thought of never seeing him again. I've moved out of our house and found a small apartment of my own. It's in a different part of the city, close to a park where I can take Max for walks. Starting over has been tough, but also liberating in a way. I'm rediscovering who I am outside of my relationship with Jake. I've been redecorating the apartment, filling it with bright colors and art, things that are purely me. As for my career, I've thrown myself into my work. My boss has been understanding of my situation and has even offered me a promotion. It would mean managing my own team of designers. I'm considering taking it, as it would be a fresh challenge and a chance to grow professionally. I've also been in individual therapy, which has been incredibly helpful. My therapist, Dr. Patel, has been helping me work through my feelings of betrayal and anger. It's made me realize that while Jake's actions were inexcusable, there were issues in our marriage that we both contributed to. I'm working on myself, learning to set better boundaries and communicate more effectively. I've had some contact with David, Amy's fiancé. He decided to end their engagement, and last I heard, he was also in therapy to work through the betrayal. We formed an unlikely friendship, bonding over our shared experience. It's been helpful to talk to someone who understands exactly what I'm going through. As for Amy, I heard through the grapevine that she was let go from her job due to the unprofessional relationship with a subordinate. I don't know how I feel about that. Part of me feels a sense of justice, but mostly I just feel sad for everyone involved. Jake has made several attempts to reconcile, sending flowers and heartfelt letters. The last one arrived just yesterday, a long, handwritten note apologizing for everything and asking for one more chance. While a small part of me misses the life we had, I know I've made the right decision in moving on. I deserve someone who will be honest and faithful. Looking ahead, I'm cautiously optimistic about my future. Yes, this experience has been painful, but it's also taught me a lot about myself and what I want in a relationship. I'm not ready to date yet, but I'm open to the possibility of finding love again someday. For now, I'm focusing on healing and rebuilding my life. I'm planning a solo trip to Europe, the one Jake and I were supposed to take together. It feels like a symbolic way of reclaiming my independence. I'm excited to explore the art museums I've always dreamed of seeing, to wander the streets of Paris and Rome, to find myself again. Thank you all for your support throughout this difficult journey. Your kind words and advice have been a source of strength. While this chapter of my life is closing, I'm looking forward to writing the next one on my own terms.